Hey guys, I'm gonna do a review today on the Oboz Yellowstone 2. Oboz is a brand based out of Bozeman, Montana, and that's where they kind of got the name from. They combine the words outdoor and Bozeman, Bozeman, Montana, and yeah, they're just a great company. Pretty new too. Not a lot of people have heard about them, but I think that's a shame, because all their designs are just so with the outdoorsman in mind. Like, it's just everything, there's nothing that's unnecessary. No, I don't know. I just dig their designs. I have a couple of their shoes and they all fit great. But yeah, enough about that. I'm going to kind of gear this review just like Nut and Fancy's reviews. Nutnfancy. He's a guy on YouTube here who just knows everything about anything outdoors related, or guns, or tactical gear, or knives, you name it. So definitely check him out if you're into outdoor stuff. He goes on all sorts of adventures and stuff, and he films every second of it. Very informative stuff. So anyways, the philosophy of use that I think this boot is, or takes, is pretty much like a burly day hiker. Maybe like if you do like a lot of field work where you're maybe surveying or trekking through who knows what, with fairly decent sized pack on maybe, or even light backpacking, or like through hiking, something like that. So this is a mid-top. It's waterproof too. They use B-Dry waterproofing, just as good as Gore-Tex. You're never going to notice a difference, even if Gore-Tex is more breathable, which who knows if it actually is. I found that you just get a steeper price when you go with Gore-Tex, and you don't really notice a difference in performance. That's just my experience. I don't know, I have way too many shoes to count, but your mileage may vary. So the materials that this is made out of is a nubuck leather. Now they make a Yellowstone, just a regular Yellowstone. I believe that's available for women. And the big difference between the Yellowstone and the Yellowstone 2 is that the Yellowstone 2 has leather all in the gusset of the tongue, and then also on the top of the shoe here. This is all leather, whereas in the Yellowstone it's like a fabric mesh that you would find on, you know, any other type of footwear that has mesh on it. And I note that because when I first got these, I didn't know that that was a difference, and it kind of worried me because I felt that bulk all up in here on the top of my foot, and that didn't feel very comfortable at first. But I just kept wearing them, and it totally, I don't know, resolved that. I don't know, not even an issue anymore. I also kind of made sure that this tongue was folded really flat, because it was kind of bunched up at one point, and that definitely, once I flattened it out and everything, it seemed less bulky. I wouldn't even consider that an issue anymore. I've hiked a fair amount in these, and it doesn't even cross my mind when I throw them on anymore. So the build quality and construction is pretty good as far as I can tell. The stitches are pretty tight. Nothing is delaminating really so far, and I've been just stomping through every mud puddle and every creek trying to get these things to fail, just because I'm that kind of guy with my gear, I guess. But yeah, definitely very pleased with the overall construction. No complaints really there thus far. It is subject to change, but I honestly don't think, like, these eyelets are really burly. They're never gonna, nothing's ever gonna rip out of those. At least I would not anticipate it doing so. These eyelets are pretty strong looking. They're never gonna bend. They're not gonna, yeah, they're pretty good. Rubber toe cap here. I wouldn't even really say it's like anything for grip or anything. It's just durability. I mean, if you're ever on your knees, you're always like destroying the leather if you just have leather here on a boot. Some boots just stop with that little guy there, but that's no good. So I already talked about the B-Dry. The midsole, which is this foam, usually what does the cushioning in a shoe, is a two-part EVA foam. And generally with shoes they use different colors to define the densities. So you have like a lighter density here, and then you can't really tell, maybe you can in the camera, but right here, like underneath that line that I'm kind of following with my finger, is a darker shade of foam that is a denser foam. Darker shade doesn't necessarily mean always denser, but that in this case, that's what I'm feeling here. And that's cool because it adds durability to the shoe, because if it just had this foam under here, it was gonna, like, just all this pounding on my heel from hiking and wearing heavy packs, this foam would just get completely destroyed and depressed right away, and then your sole would be wearing out really quick before the upper of the shoe does. It is board lasted, which means that there's like a complete nylon plastic like underfoot, and you can tell a shoe has this because it's stiff all through the front of a shoe, or all through the front of the shoe. I mean, there's not really that definitive point where it stops getting stiff. There is a little bit in here because it also has a nylon shank, but still, like, it's pretty stiff all through here. It's not just super floppy and gonna give you a lot of, foot fatigue on the trail. You can just stomp through whatever you want, and it doesn't really matter if it's a sharp rock or what. This shoe comes with the best insole of any shoe company out there, minus maybe some that have like a cork insole or something like that. It comes with this. It's called their B-Fit Deluxe footbed, and this currently comes in all of their shoes that they sell. Now, the stores that this is just recent, as of the summer of 2012. So, like, if you go to your store right now, a day after I upload this, they may not have this in all their shoes because they're still in the process of moving them over. But like, this insole is completely stiff. It's very impressive that they, spend the extra time and money considering your arch and the alignment of your body and everything, because if you don't have this type of rigidity in the arch, I'm pushing pretty hard there, and you can't, it's barely flexing. I think it's just like a molten resin or something. I don't know, it's not really a plastic, it's almost squishy, but not. But like, if you don't have something like this in your shoe, you should really consider it, because that's the whole reason why insoles are removable to begin with, is because you should, find an orthotic that actually supports your foot, and then, find which one best fits your foot, and then wear that instead of that piece of crap that comes in shoes normally. But this, I would say, is really sufficient for someone who, just needs a pair of shoes. They don't want to buy insoles too, and this is way better than anything else. I, however, still put a super feet insert in here. I have the orange in there now. They're not in here, but they're in the shoes I'm wearing now. But I will swap them out, throw them in here. I don't like the orange super feet. I grew out of my green ones. I recommend, if you're gonna hike at all or wear any pack at all, you should definitely wear the green super feet, because I don't know, the orange feels kind of sloppy. The heel cup isn't deep enough. That's a whole other review anyways. So on to the outsole. Sorry for just rambling. The outsole is the tread, the grip of the shoe, and you can see that there's tons of places. Sorry for the dirt and everything too, I should have cleaned these, but oh well. There's tons of areas where there's no rubber. Like right there, you can see the EVA foam through there. Here in the middle, that's a big part. This line going up here, that's no rubber. Now, me just saying that, it may sound like a bad thing. That's an awesome thing. That means that all these places where you're not normally using for grip, there isn't heavy rubber sitting there just taking up weight. So that's a great thing. My only complaint is that right here, it is kind of like, I'm used to just, you know, if I come up to a log or if I come up to a rock or something that's big that I have to step on, I usually just throw the bottom of my boot down right here on that object. But with this, you're not going to have hardly any grip because you're stepping on this foam. So I highly recommend, if you get these boots or something that has this tread on it by Oboz, because they put this on other shoes, definitely teach yourself to step on the forefoot of the shoe, because there's way more real estate here. Tons of grip. Like, this tread pattern is amazing. So I've just kind of had to retrain myself to not just throw the bottom of my shoe there, but to, you know, land up here. And you don't have to worry about getting hurt either, because that plastic sheet is under there, protecting your foot really well. So just a little note to anyone who might have these, or if you're thinking about getting them. And this is their Sawtooth tread. That's the name they gave it. It's available on a bunch of their shoes. One thing I really like about it too is that the tread goes up the side of the shoe, and I like that because it's a lot like rock crawling tires for trucks, because, you know, they're never stepping or they're never driving on flat things. So why should your hiking shoe be any different? So that just makes sense. That's great to see. Let's see, where am I going now? Oh yeah, it's a non-marking carbon rubber. Not exactly sure what carbon rubber means. I'll add it in the video if I find out, but I don't know if it's just like their own proprietary thing or what. But realize it doesn't say Vibram on the sole. It just says Oboz. Don't be worried about that at all. Lots of people, they shop for shoes, hiking boots, and they're like, oh, it doesn't say Vibram, I'm not getting that. But realize that there's tons of different compounds of rubber that Vibram uses anyways. So it's all what the shoe is made for. But regardless, the product designer of Oboz, also the gentleman in their other YouTube videos, if you look up any videos on their own page, he used to manage the Stealth Rubber, you know, area of 510, the climbing shoe company. So if anyone knows about rubber and knows compounds of rubber that are good for what this boot's made for, it's gonna be him. So I wouldn't be the least bit worried, and I can tell you right now, just from my own experience, that this is a really, really, really perfect outsole for, you know, rocky trails, dirt, mud. Like, it's just so good. Let's see what else. The also too, with just hiking in general, the forefoot is a big part of it, because there's so much real estate on there, there's so much surface area. So even when you're going downhill, like, a lot of people complain about their knees, that's probably because you're slamming down in your heel. And especially on a steep trail, why give yourself that as your grip when you could just tip your toe forward a little bit and land here? I've noticed that, you know, your grip is extremely increased when you do that, particularly with this tread. Not that I'm slipping all over the place on the heel if I land there, but if it's like particularly muddy or particularly like covered in leaves or who knows what, land on the forefoot. Definitely, it'll save your knees and you won't slip, most likely. The ergonomics of this shoe, I would say, are absolutely excellent. When I first looked at it, I saw all these stitches all over the place, and I was like, oh, what is that about? I like boots that are just all one piece of leather. But every time I buy those, I wind up wearing the tread out, and then I have a boot that's, you know, great up here, but then I have no tread that's usable, so I just, you know, get rid of it, and it may not have fit the best. So I was looking at these and I was like, well, what logical reason would that be there for? All those stitches and all these layers of leather. And it kind of came to me that it's like building, like it's making it a three-dimensional shape just based on how it's stitched, as opposed to making it one piece of leather and then stretching it into a shape, or putting it on the last and having that make the shape of a shoe. This is already a shape before the leather is even molded or stretched or anything, and it fits so well around the heel and the ankle area. And same thing up here too. Sorry for being off the camera. These layers here, it makes it so that the footbed is, or the toe box is almost, roomier width-wise than it is height-wise, which is a great thing to have in a shoe, as opposed to just having one piece of leather and hoping that that takes the shape of whatever last they're using. So just a little side note, that's a great, I'm not too worried about the durability. I've been rubbing up against all sorts of stuff trying to get it to come off, trying to get the stitches to come undone, but it's not. I don't think I really see an issue in the durability there, especially because, even if that does rip a little bit, it's still waterproof and you can still use them. They'll still work fine, and you'll probably wear this out before anything happens to up here that would sacrifice the usability of this shoe. So keeping on with ergonomics, this three-dimensionally molded heel cup is just genius. It's external to the shoe, and it's like, three-dimensional, as I just said. So a lot of shoe companies, they'll just take a piece of plastic and bend it around the heel, meaning flat, and then doing that, and then sewing that piece of plastic into the shoe or gluing it or whatever. And that, while it makes a sturdy heel counter, you're not going to roll your ankle really, maybe, I don't know, but it's not very comfortable falling into a flat wall, or even in the rear, pushing your heel back against the flat surface. It's not that comfortable at all. And I found with a lot of hiking boots, the back of the heel can be pretty harsh until you really jam through the leather or something. But this shoe is just, it's like a perfect cradle around the heel, and I don't even have to tie them, and I could walk up a hill and my heel wouldn't even slip out because of a combination of that heel counter and the leather and the way that's layered, I believe. The fit is just great. Never had anything fit this well. Moving on to fit, I have a size 14 foot. Generally I take a 14 size shoe, men's, American. As you can see, or maybe not, I don't know, hopefully you can see, this is a size 14, UK 13, Japanese 32, and a European 48, made in China. No big deal, everything's made in China right now. Not everything, but most quality, high value items in footwear are going to be made overseas somewhere. But on the Brannick device, I measure a little over a 14, maybe, with a fully weighted foot. I have a really fallen arch too, so I'll be maybe a little over a 14. In a 5-finger, I wear a size 46 usually, or sorry, a 47. Whereas here it says European 48. 48 5-fingers are a little big on me. So I also have a medium width, I would say D, maybe if anything a tiny bit less, but not, I would say it a pretty, solid D. And the width in these is just perfect. I'm not pushing off against the side or anything. It doesn't look like this shoe has a particularly wide toe box. Like Keen is known for their toe box, and you can really see in their shoe designs, it almost looks like a paddle up here or something. Not that that's a bad thing, it's a great fit. But this I found is a really roomy toe box anyways, even though it doesn't look like it at first. So don't be worried about that if you were. Let's see, getting out of here. Weight, they are 21.8 ounces, and that's a single size 9. Oboz measured that. I didn't weigh these or anything, but I would say that's a pretty light shoe considering how stiff it is, how capable it is, and that it's a full leather. You have all these great fit options on it. I don't think 21.8 ounces is very heavy at all, and they don't feel like you're lugging around a boot. I can hike for 7-8 miles in these and not really even think about it. It's pretty nice. They only come in this color right now. No big deal. I think it's nice. Keep in mind, Oboz is a really small company still. They have like 8 people working for them. So I wouldn't expect them to really have a whole crazy amount of selection right now, especially because not a lot of people know about them. So the more you buy them, the more options they're going to have in the future. Just saying. Let's see, on the price. They're $150. And I would say for the amount of value that you get with this heel counter, the board lasting, and the nylon shank, just all the thought that was put into this outsole, the performance of it that I can vouch for, I feel like $150 is a pretty good price for this. Now I've only owned this boot for maybe 3 months or so. I've been hiking all the time though. I probably put 100 miles on these, of Adirondack trails, like rocks and just dirt, really steep trails, and they are just awesome. They're my go-to shoe if I'm not wearing the Oboz or one of their other shoes, which you'll see a review from me pretty soon, maybe right after this one. But yeah, can't say enough about this shoe. It's an awesome performing mid-top hiking boot. The Oboz Yellowstone 2.